What's up, Gaming Wars? Chief Rocky here, and we're doing something completely different. I got members of XBA, XCaliber, and myself, and we're going to have a chat about Empyrion's size class system. Specifically, we're going to be talking about what it does for the game currently, its benefits, its drawbacks, and if we think anything needs to be changed, what we recommend. This is all based off our experiences in multiplayer, with XPA pretty much leading in PvP, not only as a faction in combat, but when it comes to PvP ship and vessel design. Myself with very moderate PvP experience, but having a very successful faction on any server we were at. And then with XCaliber, who is a very good ship designer, trying to break into PvP. And it is very difficult, mostly because the size class system is deceptive, with kind of making people think that a bigger size class is better. I tried to tie this in with my size class 1 CV combat test, where we were basically challenging people to build size class 1 CVs and see which ones were better. What turned out was that these size class 1s held up just as good as size class 4, 5, 6. So size class is irrelevant when it comes to combat effectiveness in PvP. I say all this, and I hope you guys understand that none of this is negative in any type of way. We are not trying to bash the game. We love the game, and this is one of the reasons why we're doing it. We want to see PvP be more than what it is. We want to see multiplayer in Empyrion grow, and mostly we are more concerned with just bricks flying around in PvP, and we want to see some more ornate stuff, and we're trying to come up with ideas on how to drive it. So I say all that, and I hope you guys enjoy the conversation, but please keep in mind that we are trying to get positive interaction and positive feedback on this. We would love anybody that plays Empyrion and is watching this video, leave comments below in the video. I'm hoping to get Elion's attention in this and maybe get some more attention on the PvP side of Empyrion. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. What's up, Gaming Warriors? It's Chief Rocky here with another episode of Empyrion. Kind of not. I'm here with Nastral, Notmadhatten, and XCaliber, all Empyrion players, right? Famous in their own right? Some labeled as the per se bad guys. And XCal, obviously, probably some of the most predominantly successful stuff on the workshop, right? So
I thought I was the bad guy.
So what I'm doing here right now is holding a conversation, right? Nothing bad, nothing good, really kind of more of what I've seen as something I've always wanted to see implemented into the space survival sandbox genre, but I haven't seen any of them actually accomplish it. So I got 3 very specific questions. I'm going to ask the question, make a little statement, and then I'm going to ask each one of you to respond. Either in like or not in like, it doesn't really matter. It's all of opinion based. What the actual drive and motivation here is to actually provide maybe some feedback on maybe some changes that I'd like to see the Empyrion, because Empyrion is the one I see as the one that has the ability to do this the most successfully. Alright, so question number 1, right, is what is the purpose of Empyrion's size class system, and what does it do for designing vessels? Alright, so I believe that its best intentions were put into it when they made the size class system. But right now, I don't think it really depicts the, what it's meant to. I think it really just kind of depicts what the vessel's physical draw on a person's PC or the server is. So as it currently stands, I only see it as a way to limit the player's overburdening of the system. However, I think that the size class for the players as kind of like something to achieve as they reach level is great. I just think there's more that we could probably do to it. Nastral?
Well, with size class, I mean, like you said before, it's essentially the way of measuring the burden on client and server. And I think a major issue is always with that was the fact that it was labeled in such a way, kind of creatively, to try to like, try to make it a little bit more, I guess, immersive and kind of integrated into the gameplay. Although it also means that it's kind of a problem because people have associated size and big with better, and it also plays into that issue with the imbalance of the issue where you have the your damage is capped, but you can scale your you can scale your defense forever until you reach whatever size class limit is set on whatever multiplayer server you're playing on. So so it leads to all these ridiculous fights that last too long, and or just it's too frustrating. There's kind of a failure of resolution in multiplayer conflicts where you don't have enough hard kills, and so it's kind of like it always just kind of ends up being like somebody either runs away first or yada yada, etc etc. And it just kind of leads to just kind of it feels very in every a lot of conflicts tend to feel very incomplete and very like just kind of static. Like there isn't that you don't have a lot of resolution as a result of it. But anyways, I'm getting off topic, but it still kind of factors into it. But yeah, it's the same thing. And it's just, I think one of the major issues is the fact that like I think size class should still be in there, but it should be relabeled as something that's more like allotted bandwidth or something of that sort, where it's an or or server burden if you really want to be maybe a little bit of naming and shaming. So it's like, hey, efficiency rating, there you go.
Oh yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, so something like that. But other things to regulate it would be nice too. Hell, even something really basic like block limits for armor. You get if you dial you get this many you get to put, you have a limit of this many steel blocks, this many.
Yeah, you're starting to touch base on another topic.
Yeah, but it factors into it because the race to be tanky directly impacts it and leads to size class bloat.
Agree. Notmadhatten?
Basically just what he said.
Simple and sweet. XCal?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's basically there needs to be something that makes the average builder a little more efficiency minded as far as an all around build, instead of I need tons and tons and tons of armor and then I'll put some weapons on there, and not understanding the entire concept of the build as far as what it's supposed to be doing and what it needs to achieve.
Agreed. Okay, so second question, right? What are the downsides to this system and what does it lack? All right, so the downsides to me is it really limits the creativity to the actual and doesn't actually enhance it as what it's supposed to, right? So I provide this with that size class 1 CV challenge that I had, right? The whole goal was to prove that you don't need a size class 8 CV as a mainstay in PvP. You really don't. A size class 1 could take on a 4 or 5, a 6 if it's well designed. I mean, No Manhattan's Tard Stick, for example, was a perfect example of that. So with the size class limitations, it's really depicted on not really block count, but more of triangles and devices than anything else, where I think that kind of limits people. So that's where I think it lacks kind of, I think it's not allowing people to really design things how they want to create it for, because they're limited by this whole device, like if they go over a certain limit, and there's some servers out there that you can't go over a certain limit. Why? Because they're fearful of it spiking, right? It's spiking the server or creating lag.
The funny thing is that's actually been a huge rarity until recently. For a while there was tons of servers out there that were like, oh no, we want to give you the biggest size class possible, because that's what people were demanding. And it only recently did they actually start dialing it back because of issues, and people were finally starting to catch on that, oh hey, we can't continue to allow size class 34 like they had on Venatus and expect things to run smoothly. And yeah, I mean, it's only very recently that people actually started getting smart and actually started like putting in appropriate limits that should have been in years ago, and it would have actually greatly enhanced the quality of multiplayer play. But many of these servers, they failed to recognize it until it was too late, and they started losing massive player population because of it.
Notmadhatten?
Yeah, size class. The whole system does work to reduce lag. The whole system is pretty much based on just reducing lag, because that's really what it's eliminating. However, yeah, it can reduce creativity in some aspects, just because it doesn't allow you to spam stuff like lights and devices everywhere without hugely bloating glass size.
XCal?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think it's just frustration on the builder. Again, I mean, just, it doesn't help form a balanced build, I guess, if anything. It just doesn't lend anything to the building process. It's more a back-end kind of figure.
Yeah,
it could be something that can actually build on something for someone.
It's definitely not intuitive.
No. Again, it's going right back to what we said earlier, that the term size class is deceptive. Using that term is very deceptive, where people are like, you know what? If I want to build a battleship, I need to go size class like 15. But like in PvP, it's going to be totally ineffective. It's too large for the amount of weapons that you're given. And these smaller, lighter, faster ships could just go around to pick you off if they know what they're doing. And then on top of that, it just puts a huge burden on the server. So some servers have done this, and this kind of is a secondary question to number 2. The second question is, some servers have been able to do stuff like this, right? But it breaks the vanilla game. It breaks the blueprints that builders have put their heart and soul into. And then some servers, like I've played on the Wolf servers, his community servers, and I played on Spange's servers, where it's unlimited turrets, right? Size classes were limited sometimes. Depends on what server you're playing on. But the unlimited servers, too many turrets, that causes another lag situation, right? Or the numbers that they're giving you is dependent on somebody actually physically going and looking at everything. So you can't really depend on every player and they're following the rules. So do you guys see that as a problem?
Oh yeah. Well, that's mainly a community problem. I mean, you can basically, that's one of the reasons why to have a good multiplayer server, you need to have. Yeah, I mean, you need to basically have it regulated with EAH and your proper vanilla settings, and then even dial down some of those things for performance purposes. But really, if you set up the map correctly, if you set your configs correctly, you can be absolutely 100% hands off and let people just go, and you won't have any problem. But it's a community problem. Most communities can't handle it. They're too. If you look on the political spectrum, they tend to be a little, I don't know, it tends to lean a little towards kind of left authoritarian in sort of kind of orientation, where it's like they want to protect the the sensibilities of everybody playing on there, and so when you've got a strong majority calling for this and for that, they'll cave into it. The owners will cave into it, and they'll make rules based upon that, which is fine. That's how you, I mean, I guess if that's how you want to keep your people, but it's not the best way for making a challenging multiplayer server of any kind, and especially not a good PvP server.
Agreed. Not Manhattan.
Yeah, agreed. That's what he said.
So XCal, I know you used to play Rust, so you know how gritty it could get in the PvP environment. What's your thought on what I just was said?
Well, no, and I think honestly, I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, 80% of the people are roughly playing single player. Of the 20% that supposedly play multiplayer, probably 18% of those are mainly PvE, or they're ignorant to PvP and attempt it. So it's a very small community of people that actually understand how to play PvP, and I'm not included in that. So it's I think with things like this, fixing and making it a little easier for people to understand how to actually build something that would be somewhat effective in PvP would be, it would, to me, it would expand the the community of people that actually want to play PvP, and it would probably make a lot of these things easier for servers to run more vanilla stuff, not have to cater to people that want to have all these handicaps that actually aren't really handicaps, right? Because they actually make it worse. But the illusion of handicaps, like with the added turrets, the bigger size classes where they think they can have more armor to protect themselves and stuff like that. So it's a hard game, coming from Rust. I mean, Rust is built in a way to where I played Legacy. I didn't really play the new one, but you knew the game, you knew what was possible, what wasn't possible, and you worked around it. So, stacking ramps on top of each other 100 times to protect the wall, you knew you could do that, so you did it, right? Same thing in Empyrion, you hide turrets, you do, whatever these different things that you do. But if the game actually gave you blocks that would make it so you wouldn't have to do these exploits or whatever in order to
well, first of all, they're not an exploits. Exploits don't actually exist in games. That's a subjective term used by people who disagree with certain practices.
I didn't mean it negatively. I apologize. I didn't, just lack of a better word. I'm just saying the things that we do to achieve somewhat of a playable experience using the limited tools that were given by the developer, because they haven't developed tools that should be there in place, is all I'm saying. So like if we had like a signal jammer for turrets so that you can fool turrets and prevent them from targeting certain areas of your ship or something, just things like that would actually make the experience better. We don't have those things. So
sure, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And no, I agree with you, XCal. A lot of people see it as exploits, and it's really not, because you even alluded to it. In Rust, people did it because it was allowed. It was coded into the game. Whether it was intentional or not, it's coded into the game. It's allowed to do it.
I mean, until it's patched, it's nature. It's the rain. It's physics.
Total.
Yeah. So, and there's little tricks on how you even do that. So it's yeah, I don't know. That's one of the even O plus S caught that on a couple servers, like, oh, you guys are exploiters. Like, no, man, no. Anyhow, I digress. Back to topic. Okay, so we seem to be on the right path here. So my last question, right? What improvements would you do to the current system? If none, do you have any systems in mind that would work? So for me, honestly, I don't think that the system is bad at all. We all agree a size class limit is great for the game, for the community. It puts direction, right? I'm a military man, and most of you guys were too. So direction is important. Being able to build upon something is important. But I think the size class limit, to me, needs to be tied to the weight and the power. What do I mean by that? Okay, so I'm a Navy guy. Ships are designated by displacement, i.e. weight, right? And you put things inside the ship that can actually withstand to hold that weight. So the generator, for example. Not every ship has the same size generators because not every ship can handle the same size generators. Those generators now only put out a certain amount of power. So those ships are limited in weapon systems and or radar systems or radar suites by the amount of power it can provide. I think something like that would be great. So in turn, you wouldn't be dependent upon the devices telling you the size class limit. It would be dependent upon the weight telling what devices you can have. Would you think that's possible, and do you agree, Nastral?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a different approach would be nice. I think like right now power and everything associated with it and things that drain power and all that in Empyrion, it's a bit of an afterthought. And I think they could definitely tweak that to make it a more important thing and to have greater feedback for when you are underpowering a ship or overpowering it. Because like right now you can grossly underpower something and it'll still work, which I think is kind of silly, because really what should be happening is if you're not providing enough power to your thrusters, not only should you not have like great fuel efficiency, but because that's the thing right now. If you underpower your stuff, your fuel efficiency is going to be garbage. But I think it should be more to it than that. There should, like, if a certain kind of thruster can't get appropriate power, it should start dying or not functioning at all and things like that. So, and that should definitely be more of a thing, and there should be more tools that the player should be able to see to get feedback on what they are and aren't doing right as far as powering their systems. I would even say like have things like, instead of just like passive like magic power on a ship, you should actually have like power lines and things. You should actually have distribution systems for your power, and when those get hit, then you start getting you get in trouble, and you might have to do damage. Yeah, exactly. You have to reroute things, and you'd have to do damage control in the middle of combat and all that kind of crazy shit, which would be really cool, I think.
Agreed. Notmadhatten.
Yeah, adding more depth to how power affects ships would really add a lot to how people build and make the system more, I guess, intuitive for people, instead of it just being random nonsense, deciding when your ship is only a bigger size class.
Yeah, agreed. XCal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think power is a good idea. It's a chain reaction as far as building, because if suddenly 100% power usage dropped your vessel out of the sky, then you'd have to start worrying about weight, about cargo, about how many generators you have, and then how many fuel tanks you have, which would make your vessel bigger, and then you have to make it smaller and more efficient. So and then as far as targeting with generators, when in PvE environments or whatever, when things target generators, they don't target them when they're off. So then you could have auxiliary generator systems for backup, and it could just it would make it more equipment minded, I guess, more engineer minded instead of just sci-fi or cool looking minded. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
They'd have to be designed. They'd actually have to have some kind of sense to them. So,
But
I don't know how you do that though. I don't think they'll ever do cables. I don't think they'll do conveyor systems. I think they're looking for a way to make it magical but still make some sense, like Planet Nomad kind of thing or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're ever gonna get like cabling or anything. I just think that it needs to have it needs to make sense. It needs to be something that you could plan around.
Yeah, or even if you had something that's simple where it's like, all right, I'm gonna Here you're like drawing, you're just like drawing a line saying, or you're actually just going into the menu and saying, all right, I want this generator sending power to only to this and this thruster, for example.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Things like
I think that is something that's very feasible because you have the what do you call it, the logic system now. It wouldn't be too hard to tie something to that in, where this device feeds this only, and add a switch which detects a certain amount of power lossage on this end means that it kicks this one on.
Yeah, but how many percent of the population of Empyrion actually know how to do signal logic? You know what I mean? Like, if they're gonna make a game, it has to.
Yeah,
I know, but you know what I mean.
You wouldn't have to do it by signal logic. You wouldn't have to use the signal logic system. You'd just have to use the menu, and it'd be like you go to the individual generator in the menu and say, send to, and then you go and pull up the menu, and you've got a menu of every system in the ship you can choose to send it to, and you could even have like some kind of funky limits as like, certain systems maybe you have to have low power and high power systems, and if you put high power into low power systems, you'll fry them and stuff, so you could have to use little generators for certain things and big generators for other things. So that could be an extra funky little survival element, even, or unless you wanted to add like power transformers for that. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. I think what you were getting at, XCal, is the single logic. You don't even need to use that, and I think Nastral's getting to that too. Is you could actually just that little tab you have where you could set little keys or little buttons, right? I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but you could activate those things on the side, right? Where you have the preset ones for power and turrets, but you do the manual ones. You guys know what I'm talking about. Hopefully,
yeah. I mean, we can find ways to make this work now in the way it is. Like, we could do that. It could be achieved with signal logic, but from a game developer standpoint, and what they're actually going to think is marketable would be, if they were going to implement something like this, it would have to be for the guy that downloads the game tomorrow. And if you're downloading Empyrion tomorrow and you've never played it before, and you start playing the game, and I mean across the board, it's not an easy game to just pick up and learn how to play. There's nothing really. I'm not saying it needs to be something that holds your hand and takes you through the process, but you're dealing with a game that allows you to build anything to achieve anything in the game, but gives you no direction on how to do it. And nobody sees that on the surface. They look at the prefabs and they go, oh, okay. And then they look at, what I mean, what you're given and all these weird constructors, and there's no, it's like shopping at IKEA. There's nothing there. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
it needs a more extensive tutorial system, and something that I mean, even if it's super handholdy, and it's like, all right, now do this, blah blah blah, I think it'd be fine. But I think there just needs to be better documentation and better, like, hyperlink style documentation, where you hover your mouse arrow above the object and it's like, oh, you would do this with this, that kind of thing.
It needs to be streamlined, and they need to fix all these constructors, and it's just a lot of things. But yeah, on that specific aspect, if they were to do something like that, then it definitely needs to be some kind of a toggle system, some kind of a drop down. This is the equipment you have. This is what this power system can deal with. Maybe you could even make a system per se, and then be able to tie that system to something, kind of like they do with the custom toggles, but like assign things to a system and then let that affect whatever you assign to it.
All right, GameWorks. So I'm going to cut this video here short. It goes on for about another 30 minutes. Again, very good conversations. And we're all kind of seeing eye to eye on this. The far right PvP aggressive hypermasculinity. And I'm not saying that XCal is suburb. He's not. He is aggressive in his design as well, and he wants to get into PvP. And again, it's that very big disconnect when it comes to design, and we're trying to bridge that gap. How are we going to do that? Well, one, we need to kind of find a way to allow the game to function as is without having to strip everything down and make this block with just a cockpit in it and guns and then go forward and kill people. It has to be a little bit more in depth than that. I think the PvE aspect of it and the PvP side of it need to be conjoined in a marriage that makes this game function the way it is. And I think we're on the right track here. Not negative. We're not being negative at all. So I hope everybody sees that. Anyways, I digress. The second installment of this conversation is going to be coming out, so stay tuned for that. That's all I got. Chief Rocky out.